Jonathan, for your kind words and for the opportunity to be here today to make this speech. The contents of this speech is something that I've been writing in my head since October 7th without knowing if or when I would share it publicly. I'm probably more surprised than all of you that it's happening here at the ADL. Anti-Semitism is wrong, unfounded, and dangerous. Sadly, it is more alive today than many of us wanted to believe. October 7 shocked the world, but has also brought an awakening to the Jewish people. A new approach is needed. The first step in solving a hard problem is always to define what success looks like. It doesn't mean that's where you'll end up, but having a stated goal is critical. One of my favorite quotes is from the Cheshire Cat in Alice in Wonderland, who says to Alice, "If you don't know where you're going, it doesn't matter which path you take." Our goal must be to identify, address, and fully eradicate anti-Semitism once and for all. Over the past thousands of years, we have experienced a regrettable through line. From slavery in Egypt, to expulsion from Spain, to the 17th century Cossacks who massacred 100,000 Jews in Ukraine, to the 1905 publication of the Protocols of the Elders of Zion in St. Petersburg, to the 6 million Jews who were exterminated during the Holocaust, to October 7th. This cycle is the world's shame. History has shown that eradicating anti-Semitism is a hard goal to achieve, but with focus and with unity, it is possible. The Jewish people are the most successful minority in the history of the world. Today, we are as strong as we have ever been. We can no longer afford to ignore this problem. It must be addressed head-on and in new ways. Social media posts are nice, but little truly changes from complaining. This is a great example. Where many see hopeless, unsolvable challenges, my experiences make me believe that real progress can be made. This is what I felt when we pursued peace deals in the Middle East, where no one had succeeded for 30 years before, the largest trade deals in the history of the world with Mexico and Canada, which everyone doubted we could make, a bipartisan prison and criminal justice reform when everyone said the country was too divided, and the development, manufacturing, and distribution of a vaccine in under a year to help stop a global pandemic when all the experts said it couldn't be done. When a goal is important, it must be pursued with vigor. I am not scared by these aggressive marches or the vile spread of anti-Semitism on college campuses and in far too many organizations. I believe that a small fraction of this comes from evil intent, a larger fraction from opportunists, and the largest fraction by far comes from ignorance. To make progress, we must engage to eliminate the evil, outmaneuver the opportunists, and educate the ignorant. To start, the Jewish people must be properly understood, not just by others, but also by ourselves. Like most religious groups, we are multicultural, multi-partisan, multi-ethnic, and multiracial. There are as many ways to be a Jew as there are Jews on earth. We all know the old joke about having 10 Jews in a room and 11 opinions. I often remind my children that when Rabbi Hillel was challenged to explain the entire Torah while standing on one foot, he replied, "Do unto others as you want others to do to you." That is the entire Torah. The rest is just commentary. Every one of us has a role to play. The Jewish record of achievement can be matched against any people who ever walked the earth. Jews make up just 0.2% of the global population, yet have won 22% of the Nobel Prizes ever awarded. From Einstein to Elie Wiesel, who survived the concentration camps to chant Eicha at a synagogue on Fifth Avenue near my own family, from Philip Roth to Bob Dylan to Leonard Cohen to Sandy Koufax to the founders of Dell Computers, Starbucks, Facebook, and Google, the world is better off because of the contributions of Jews. We have some of the best comedians, Jerry Seinfeld, Jackie Mason, Sacha Baron Cohen. We're less accomplished in basketball, but we do have Amari Stoudemire. The countless millions whose lives have been saved or improved by the polio vaccine, including Palestinians and Muslims, have Jonas Salk to thank. This is not a malicious cabal, as some ignorant conspiracy theorists have alleged. This is a noble, honorable, and admirable history. Even Drake had a bar mitzvah. Jews should do more to study their history from a young age and never stop. It is a history of struggle and ingenuity. To survive and overcome so many improbable circumstances is truly remarkable. My being here today is a miracle based on my grandparents surviving the Nazis who tried to kill them. I have always been proud to be a Jew. When I started my diplomacy in the Middle East, it was not lost on me that I was a Jewish American working with Muslim leaders to make breakthroughs that many members of both of our religions thought were impossible. The approach I took was different than from those before me. As we spent 3 years discussing these ideas and developing trusting friendships, what we had in common overwhelmed our differences. Instead of dwelling on the disagreements of the past, we focused on the benefits their countries would reap in the future from being together. When I met MBZ, the leader of UAE, in 2017, after 2 hours of conversation, he said to me, "Jared, I believe you're going to make peace here in the Middle East." I was surprised. I said to him, "Why are you saying that?" It was just a couple months into my effort. And he said, "Usually America sends here one of 3 different types of people. The first are those who come and they fall asleep in our meetings. Those aren't going to get anywhere. The second are those who come and they read messages and transmit with no opportunity to have a real feedback and dialogue." He said, "The third type they send are those who come and try to convince me to do things that are not in my country's interests." He said, "You're the first person to come and really try to listen and understand our perspective. And so I believe things will be possible with you." The Abraham Accords was the result of dialogue, understanding, and trust. Another line of effort we must pursue is to illuminate to others that when you work with the Jews, you can be better off. Following the breakthroughs of the Abraham Accords, the economic and social benefits were far greater than we had imagined. In August 2020, I took the first ever commercial flight from Tel Aviv to Abu Dhabi, where we were given permission to fly over Saudi Arabia for the first time. Today, there are religious, cultural, and scientific collaborations, as well as billions of dollars of business being done between these two capitals. Even with the current war, 2023 trade between Israel and the Gulf countries will exceed 2022. I was touched this past week when I was in Abu Dhabi, where I met with some of the rabbis and leaders of the Jewish community. We discussed how special they felt to be in this frontier community, and we discussed some of the restrictions that were being placed on community gatherings and how they were being done for their protection and safety. What had occurred so quickly as a coming together between Jews and Muslims in this place, we realized we had been taking for granted how unique it was and how young this new relationship is. We all committed to go back to our communities, to work harder between each other, and to continue to build this strength so that it will never be disrupted again. Speaking with both Jews and Muslims who are navigating the dynamics caused by the current conflict left me more positive than ever that the Abraham Accords have the foundation to prosper and expand across additional nations, including Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, Indonesia, and many, many more to come. Another important line of effort we must pursue is to strengthen and celebrate the many mutually beneficial relationships with groups from other backgrounds, with the Muslim community, with the Black community, with the Asian community, who have a lot of respect for the Jewish people, and very importantly, with the Christian community. I was very disturbed recently when I saw a Pew poll that showed that evangelical perception of Jews was a plus 40, and Jewish perception of evangelicals was a negative 40. I had never met an evangelical living in New Jersey and New York until I went on the 2016 campaign, and I can assure you they were much different than what I imagined. When you have a people that likes you so much, we should be making more effort to get to know them, to get to understand them, and to build those relationships further. We can all do better by keeping an open mind, an open door, and an open heart. Thank you. One of the beautiful effects of post-October 7th has been seeing the members of the Citizens Israel Army of Israel, who were on opposing political sides only weeks earlier, work trustingly together in tanks and in brigades to protect their families and their homeland. It should not take an existential threat to help us realize the appropriate weighting of political differences. Focusing on better understanding and mutually beneficial relationships is critical. The ADL has done this well over the years. They fought on the front lines of civil rights and other important battles, and Jonathan is to be commended for demanding that those groups stand up for us now in our hour of need. The primary battlefield where the most intense anti-Semitism festers is in the opposition to the existence of the State of Israel. Israel's a vibrant democracy in the Middle East, a military superpower, an economic and technological force, and one of the most forward-leaning environmental stewards on earth. Israel's the only country that has more trees today than it had 50 years ago. In Israel, you can practice whatever religion you want and live whatever lifestyle you choose. Shouldn't progressive social advocates be celebrating this? When women were brutally raped on October 7th, most liberal women's groups in America stayed silent. Organizations that fight for LGBT rights condemned a country that allows freedom and marched for a terrorist organization that punishes gay people with death. Where were these voices of protest when Syria killed 500,000 of their citizens? Or just weeks ago, when Pakistani authorities displaced 375,000 Afghan refugees? The condemnations you're hearing on college campuses is not about Palestinians. It is about Jews. The United Nations has unfortunately become the grand cathedral of anti-Semitism. The advocates in the complex across town espouse their virtues and explain how they are sophisticated, compassionate people doing important work to make the world a better place. But numbers don't lie. There are 193 member states, and only one of them is a Jewish state. The United Nations officially condemned Israel 14 times in 2023, while the entire rest of the world combined earned only 7 rebukes. Sophisticated countries like France and Sweden supported the 14 resolutions adopted against Israel during last year's General Assembly session. But these beacons of fair play failed to introduce a single UNGA resolution against Russia, Cuba, Venezuela, North Korea, Sudan, Iran, Yemen, or 170 other countries. I can go on and on. It's been this way since the birth of the Jewish state. Since the creation of the UN Human Rights Council in 2006, there have been nearly as many resolutions condemning Israel as for the entire rest of the world combined. The 45 resolutions against Israel made up almost half of all the country-specific resolutions passed in the UNHRC. This morning, as I was preparing this, I went on Perplexity, and I saw that since 1948, there's been 226 UN security resolutions concerning Israel. North Korea, there's been 21. Iran, the #1 state sponsor of terrorism in the world, 7. Something doesn't make any sense here. UNRWA, the organization that has received over $6 billion in funding from America alone, has now been proved to have terrorists on its payroll and militant installations integrated into and protected by its facilities. Its existence has perpetuated this problem, and it must be eliminated for progress to be made. This is a double standard. Those yelling the loudest for aggrieved minorities and for equality have been at best silent on this double standard, and at worst leading the charge in its opposition. I challenge the United Nations to take a single year off from focusing on the sole Jewish member state and instead work on some of the other vexing problems we have in the world. As Jews, another effort we must make is to focus our considerable resources and our enduring strength on our real friends and identify our real enemies. Let's work to make our voices heard at these institutions. If we believe their missions before October 7th were good, let's engage and work with them to reform on the issue of anti-Semitism. Let's be clear about our expectations and help them correct course. This is a very, very important point to me. Sometimes condemnation is needed, but in most cases, constructive engagement will create better outcomes, a clearer mutual understanding, and more importantly, our goal, the elimination of anti-Semitic thoughts, sentiments, and statements. Success, as I define it, is not to fight. Success is having nothing to fight about. Harvard, University of Pennsylvania, Columbia, and other leading universities do not have to be our enemies. They have clearly gone astray, but we should engage to help them find their way back to the right course. The tough conversations that are being had today are long overdue. Jonathan, thank you for having me here today and for recognizing the success of the Abraham Accords, the first peace agreement between Israel and Muslim countries in over 30 years, which occurred under the Trump administration. When you called me a few weeks ago asking me to accept an award and address your convention, I expressed my reluctance. I conveyed my honest feedback that I had grown skeptical of the ADL, seeing it more as a political organization whose condemnations have alienated and then hardened in their resentment many potential allies. However, I believe your genuine expressed desire for a partnership to fight anti-Semitism that transcends political ideology is badly needed at this time. After all, how can we ask others to stand with the Jewish people if we cannot stand with each other? We cannot let this be about politics. This is about the Jews. If Jews cannot look past their partisan beliefs to acknowledge positive efforts on behalf of the Jewish people, then we will be doomed to history repeating itself as it has time and time again. On October 7th, Hamas didn't care if the Jews they were torturing, raping, and killing were liberal or conservative. They killed them simply because they were Jews. Let's not waste our energy in the wrong places. The people who have supported, defended, and uplifted the Jews are not our enemies because of a careless tweet or a silly meme. We should be welcoming the allyship of those who wish to stand with us, regardless of their politics. You can think whatever you like. Thank you. You can think whatever you like about Donald Trump, but he's not an anti-Semite. For me, thank you. For me, the condemnations by some Jewish groups of a man I know and love who blessed my wife converting to Judaism, wore a yarmulke when he walked down the aisle at our wedding, proudly attended the Brit Milah of his grandson, of his Jewish grandson, and who has always been a strong and vocal supporter for the Jewish people in the state of Israel, was confusing. The results of his presidency speak loudly. When Donald Trump was president, Israel signed 5 peace deals with its neighbors. Iran and its proxies were suffocating under punishing sanctions. The Golan Heights was returned to Israel, and he did what previous presidents had promised but failed to do, which is he moved the American embassy to Jerusalem and finally recognized it as the capital of the Jewish state of Israel. He also did something which was not as recognized at the time, but is getting a lot more appreciation paid to it now, which is he foresaw the brewing anti-Semitism on college campuses and signed an essential executive order on combating anti-Semitism that was supported by the ADL to force universities to provide equal protection to Jewish students who were being discriminated against. There are now several actions being taken thanks to the rules that were put in place under that executive order. These efforts should be recognized by all Jews and built upon. I'm personally grateful to the many non-Jews who have stood up and publicly been counted as allies to the Jewish people. My heart goes out to the Palestinian people. They could use better friends as well. Supporters who wish to see them thrive are wasting their efforts by scapegoating Israel. They must demand accountability from Palestinian leaders and expect civil behavior from their citizenry. Let me close by saying that the Jewish people have more power today to bring change than most of us appreciate. Only by learning from the past and working together, the goal to identify, address, and eradicate anti-Semitism can be achieved. We have proven through the Abraham Accords that have held firm during the months of this bloody war in the region and through centuries of mostly peaceful coexistence through the broader Middle East that Jews and Muslims have a desire to return to the pre-World War II days of living side by side as brothers. After all, most human beings desire peace and harmony. Let us honor the legacy of the 1,200 Jews who died on October 7th by using this tragedy to activate Jews from around the world to address the dangers that we have sadly ignored. By shifting course, future tragedies can be avoided, and their lives and the lives of the non-Jews who have died in this conflict will not have been lost in vain. Thank you.